Good to be back with you right here on down the road. We got a lot of things we want to discuss today. We do. We want to talk about some oil production. We want to talk about whether or not we can increase or decrease what we're doing in North Dakota, how the economy and how it affects us on a daily basis. We want to get a chance to visit about that. The other thing we want to get a chance to do today is talk about education and where we're at when it comes to federal dollars coming into education and what you can see happening at the local school district level. But now I have a real treat for you. I do. The governor of the great state of North Dakota, the chief executive in our state, joins us right now. Governor Burgum, good to have you coming down the road.
Joel, great to be with you, always.
I do appreciate you taking time. I know you're getting pulled 100 different directions, and monitoring this legislative session can't be the easiest one. And then, of course, in the middle of a pandemic, which when you took the job, did you ever in a million years imagine you'd be dealing with a pandemic?
Well, when I decided to run for the job, I didn't know that on day one, I'd be dealing with 10,000 protesters with DAPL, and I never envisioned a pandemic. So I think we're into a couple dozen emergencies now when you take all the floods and the droughts and the protests and the pandemic. So it's been an interesting couple of years. I'm looking forward to the next four being maybe a little less exciting than the first four.
I can tell you this, and as a Democrat to a Republican, the way you handled DAPL is still one of those things I think you handled the best. You know, you got in your rig, you went down there, you talked to them, you treated them with respect, and you stayed as long as they wanted you to stay. And I think a lot of people could learn nationwide from that example when it comes to Native Americans. Have other governors called you and said, look, how did you put out that fire?
Well, certainly we've tried to share our experience with others about, what we've learned. But when I thought about that, this year during the pandemic, when we had, I get even a little emotional. We had, National Guard, North Dakota, fabulous people helping throughout this pandemic emergency down there side by side with tribal police, tribal emergency personnel, tribal public health down there, doing vaccination clinics, doing testing clinics. The trust that's been rebuilt, the neighbor to neighbor, that kind of stuff. We still got a long way to go because we're, dealing with hundreds of years of historic challenges. But I'd say we've made a lot of progress on rebuilding relationships and trust from the first day we took office.
Governor, I got to ask you about COVID. I'm not going backwards on it. We can all go backwards in relation to what's happened on a national scale and on a state scale. That isn't what I want to focus on. I want to focus on what I'm seeing, and then you can tell me that I'm wrong, okay? Here's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing people get vaccinated at all ages now. I'm seeing the governor or the mayor of Fargo, who has been, quite progressive or quite aggressive is probably the way to put it. When it comes to COVID, I'm seeing him pull the mask mandate. I'm seeing a percentage of North Dakotans in a high rate that had COVID in the first place. And I'm seeing a population that's just ready to bust out. And I don't know what your take on it is, but, I spoke to a physician. He said, Joel, by the end of April, I'm not saying it's completely over, but the end of April, he said, I think things are going to be back to normal. What's your take, Governor?
Well, I'd say we're in a race now between can we continue to be very efficient at vaccine administration, and again, great effort at the state level and the local level, all the people involved there, including National Guard, local public health providers. But we've consistently ranked in either 1 or 2 on vaccine administration. We're number 2 in the country again this week. And so that's, very positive that we've got a high percentage of North Dakotans that are getting vaccinated. But the race is between a combination of mitigation fatigue, because people are tired of mitigation efforts, whether it's masking or social distancing. So that's one race. Then we're also racing against these new variants, which are showing up, which are more contagious. But the good news is the vaccine appears to be working against the new variants. So if we can keep charging ahead with high vaccination rates, and we've got really high penetration among those that are the most vulnerable, including our population over age 65 with underlying conditions, very high vaccination rates. But as we saw today, we had 200 new cases of COVID in the state today, and about half of those in Cass County. And I don't like it when the COVID cases are going up. So again, we need to, whether it's college kids or essential workers, and we are ahead of other states. So Monday, as of Monday, coming up March 28th, anybody in the state basically is going to be able to be eligible for, any adults 16 and over with the Pfizer eligible for a vaccine. So would encourage people to get online, check out North Dakota Department of Health, get your vaccine. It's not just about protecting yourself, but when you get vaccinated, you take yourself out of the transmission stream. And so whether you want to go to the if you want to go to the, on a pub crawl, you want to, go to a Bison game, you want to go to a UND hockey game, you've been vaccinated and you're enough days past the vaccination, you're taking yourself out of that transmission, and that helps everybody. So would encourage everybody to get vaccinated.
I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've seen as a report over in Minnesota, which is there are some, not many, just kind of a handful type thing, but there are individuals who have been vaccinated who contracted COVID again. Are you seeing that at all in North Dakota?
Well, it takes about 2 weeks past your final vaccination to have full immunity, if you will. And so there are cases in North Dakota where someone gets their first shot and then a week later they come up with COVID. And so, yeah, it can happen. So again, you have to wait for the full immunity to build. But it is, all of these vaccines have been proven now with, the tens of millions of doses being delivered around the world, is that they're really a miracle. I mean, this is not like a flu vaccine. These are new generation vaccines that are highly effective, and they're nearly 100% at preventing hospitalization and death. I mean, near 100%. And so, what we were trying to manage through this whole thing was hospital capacity, and cases are up. And right now, today, I mean, we're among the best in the country. There's only 21 hospital beds in the state of North Dakota with people that have COVID. And, that's 21 too many. A few of those are in ICU, and statistically, some, so a few of those people may not make it. But we've got a real tool here that we did not have any time before, and that is the vaccine. So we should take advantage of that and get rid of it and get our lives back to normal.
You mentioned something a little bit earlier I probably should have went to right away, which is the variants. A lot of people are questioning whether or not the new vaccine will handle the variants, whether or not the vaccine that they're taking right now. You have access. You have access to your own health department and on a national scale. What are you hearing?
Well, I would say, first of all, we're very fortunate. Molly Hall, who's leading all the vaccine work for the state of North Dakota, she's on calls with the CDC and the feds multiple times a week, getting all the latest access. She and her team are doing a great job. But everything that they're seeing as these new variants are coming up is the vaccines are effective. And I mean, so for covering those variants. So that's very, very positive news.
Whatever you're paying Molly Hall, pay her more. We've had her on a number of times, and I got to tell you, she's doing a bang-up job for you. She really is. She doesn't bring it out like a salesperson. She just brings it out with such an honesty and a realism when it comes to it. The other thing that I do think needs to be brought up is there's people who have said, why was this person vaccinated and not this person vaccinated? And I think that those places where you can be vaccinated, I think have done a really good job of making sure no vaccine is wasted. And maybe that's a personal side for me, but I put down that, hey, I'll come running if I get the opportunity. And at the end of one day, I was in Fargo and they told me if you get to Wahpeton in 50 minutes, you can go ahead and get it, but you got to get here within 50 minutes. And luckily your highway patrol wasn't on the interstate that day. But I think they've done a good job of not wasting the vaccine.
Well, it's great that they've had that at the end of the day. I mean, I know when I was down thanking everybody working at the drive-through clinic in Bismarck, they had 440 people coming through in 2.5 hours. But at the end, They had five people didn't show that had signed up for appointments, and they got on their call list just like calling you. They got 5 people down there, and none of it was wasted. And that's one of the reasons why we've been at the top in the country, is because we're not letting any of that die on the shelf.
When you take a look at the economy itself, I know there's federal dollars that are coming in from President Biden's stimulus plan. How does that get put to work? Because I'm going to get a chance to visit with Kirsten Baesler in a little bit, and there's a lot of money there for the state of North Dakota. There's a lot of money. How much discretion do you have as governor to put that money where you need it?
Well, it's going to be, again, like it was last year with the coronavirus relief funds, the $1.25 billion in this current stimulus bill, the rescue bill from the Biden administration, same amount, 1.25. We're still waiting to see what all the guidelines are, but separately from that, when you have Superintendent Baesler on, there's about $535 million through 2 or 3 different buckets coming towards K-12 in North Dakota. I mean, so this is just, I mean, we spend $1 billion a year on K-12 in North Dakota, and then you throw another $535 million on top of that. So again, what the guidelines come out on these things are really going to matter on how and when you can spend the dollars. But I think that one of the things is you asked about, sort of where we are budget-wise in the economy. We're fortunate. I mean, we're one of the states where we're actually ahead of forecast now, nearing the end of our biennium. And even in February, our numbers came in. And so for us to be ahead of our forecast with the oil price collapse of last year, the economic collapse globally, and the pandemic is a tribute to all North Dakotans. It's a tribute to us largely keeping our economy open during the pandemic and people, continuing to work. So we're in great shape that our budget is sound. We haven't tapped a dollar out of a rainy day fund through this incredible economic crisis. And then here we've got the Fed dollar on top of it. I mean, one of my biggest concerns going forward, I mean, we don't have an issue with dollars, but we may have an issue with inflation in the next couple of years, particularly if a couple $1 trillion of infrastructure spending come from the Biden administration coming forward, because there's going to be so much public infrastructure being built. I think it's going to really put pressure on private construction and other private construction, school construction. I mean, I think we have to watch out. We're going to be back in a cycle where there's a lot of things we need to build, a lot of infrastructure we need to focus on. There's some great infrastructure bills coming through the North Dakota legislature, but we could be entering into a period of time where things are going to get a little more costly to build again.
Well, I can tell you this, whatever power you can use, there's a lot of guys, myself included, that are building something that needs some lumber, and we need it out of Canada. So hopefully that'll be coming soon after the COVID crisis is over. Governor, I appreciate you giving us more time. We'll be back, and we'll get a chance to visit a little bit more with Governor Doug Burgum right after this.
Howdy folks, it's a County Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar, sink your teeth into our famous County Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a comb roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the gang. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing, because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty. You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more. Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Hi, Hunter Ellis here for Night Hero Binoculars by Atomic Beam. These binoculars let you see anything, even in pitch black darkness. Gotcha.
The secrets are powerful wide-angle atomic beam laser that reveals objects up to 150 yards away, hidden by darkness.
During the day, Night Hero gives you 10 times magnification. And when the sun goes down, press the Night Bright button to see clearly in the dark.
Light up garbage-eating critters or spot thieves before they even get close.
Call or click now and get Night Hero binoculars for just $39.99. Order right now and you can double it. Plus, get our best-selling Atomic Beam flashlight. Just pay a separate fee. We'll even ship them to you free.
This TV special offer is not available on Amazon. You can get it all, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-619-1091. That's 1-800-619-1091. Or visit BuyNightHero.com. That's BuyNightHero.com. Order now.
Attention, have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Almiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Almiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Welcome back to Down the Road. The governor gave us some extra time, and we really appreciate that. Governor Doug Burgum, let's talk about the legislative session if we can. I realize that's a separate branch, and I realize that the best thing you can do for your own sake is to stay out of it and either sign them or not, but grade it in terms of your agenda. How is it going in terms of what you needed to come in front of those bodies and what you needed to become law?
Well, I think there's some exciting progress being made and some good things that are coming down the pike here in the home stretch, and some of that again relates to energy and agriculture, but a number of bills that are related to the coal industry, and we just put out an exciting announcement this morning related to there's exclusive negotiations going on between GRE, Great River Energy, and a buyer for the Coal Creek Station. So that's fantastic news for 700 jobs in both between the mine and the plant at Coal Creek at Falkirk Mine. So that's exciting. But part of the reason that's possible is because we're moving forward with some great legislation about the salt cavern storage, which think of that as large underground capacity to store hydrogen or ethane, flare gas or carbon. And we've got the geology in North Dakota. We have an opportunity in North Dakota to be a place where we can sequester all the carbon we're producing from our energy industry, including our ethanol plants. We can sequester all that, and we could even use it as a for-profit business to take carbon from other states, ship it here on pipelines, put it in the ground. I mean, so we've got the geology here, which we could be in the business of making money off of carbon, as opposed to it being the devil element on the periodic table. And that's a game changer, because if we could be the state that's got a vision where we're a carbon neutral energy state, I mean, that's the vision for the whole world. And so, I mean, and some great legislation coming through to help create that infrastructure and support that vision.
But Governor, you get one time to get that right. You get one time if you're going to store carbon and take carbon in from other states. And you said the geology, and you're sure you're right about that. You're sure that you're not going to end up with something in the soil, or I should say in the ground here in North Dakota, that generations from now are going to say, what the heck did we do?
No, I've got great confidence in the North Dakota geologic team, and again, the same sum of formations we're talking about at the depth. I mean, the Bakken, we're pulling the oil out from 10,000 feet below the surface. There's some layers, call them pancake layers, but there's some layers where we can securely store carbon in the ground, where it goes down there and it just stays there, 7,000 feet below the surface. And could be, great for the planet and great for North Dakota.
Governor, I want to talk about some of the issues that have really gotten people's attention amongst the legislature itself. It isn't always kumbaya, and that's any legislative session. As somebody who was there for 14 years, I know that. But one of the bills I have to ask you about is the transgender bill, and it relates to a subject that we've hit pretty hard here on Down the Road. Charlie Johnson, and Charlie, you were in the East before you moved to Bismarck, but Charlie Johnson, longtime anchor of the KX network and now head of the Convention and Visitors Bureau here in the Fargo-Moorhead area, says, please don't pass this bill. You're going to cost the state of North Dakota millions of dollars. It's not good for the public perception of who we are in North Dakota and all these different tournaments and events we want to bring in. Is this a bill that when it hits your desk, you'll sign?
Well, I think the question is what's going to, first of all, is anything going to hit my desk because it hasn't made it through both chambers? And then two, when it does, what's it going to look like? Because I think that the legislature did listen to Charlie. They did understand the serious economic impacts, and there have been a number of amendments made to try to mitigate the concerns that Charlie raised about it. So the bill is much narrower and probably addresses a number of those things. But I mean, in its current state, but again, hasn't made it to my way to my desk yet, and not sure if it will.
The only thing I'd add to that is that what the bill did now in its current form and is it limited to high school and it limited to girls athletics. And the problem I have with that is that after years of working for the North Dakota High School Activities Association as an official and knowing these individuals the way I do and how they're governed, isn't it best left to them? They have a policy in place. It isn't an easy policy. Isn't decisions like that, if we're truly going to believe in local governance, best left to them?
Well, I would agree with you, Joel. We've got a great North Dakota High School Athletic Association. There's over 30,000 student athletes in the high school level that are monitored through them, and that's an organization. They're a sports sanctioning board. They meet 12 months a year, every year. They're closest to this. They have an opportunity to work with coaches, with parents. They've got rules in place for the last 5 years. There have been zero incidents of any issues with the rules that they do have. So, I mean, I guess you could raise a question of is the legislation necessary, since we've got a group that's effectively managing this right now. So I think you raised a very good point.
I want to talk to you a little bit, if I can, about what we're about to go into. You come from a farm family, you know what that's all about, but the roads, the bridges, the infrastructure, you could do more. You could if you had the workers to do it. So my question of you is this: are we as North Dakotans doing what we can to keep people here so that they can do the jobs that we need in North Dakota, or do we send a signal that, hey, you're not welcome here?
Well, I share that concern with you as well, because we have to be a state that is welcoming, not only those people that have been in North Dakota for generations, but those that want to become North Dakotans. Because we've benefited certainly in the last 10 years mightily for actually seeing our population grow. We wouldn't have been able to have the benefit of the whole Bakken boom that's touched every county, every school district, every municipality in the state, created the legacy fund. That would not have been possible without in-migration of people to come here to work in North Dakota. And the same thing when you talk about that, we've got 44,355 bridges in the state of North Dakota, and a significant percentage of those need replacement or repair. And we're trying to push through a historic bonding bill through the legislature to free up the capital to tackle some of these important infrastructure projects. And I think they're going to come through, but then we're going to need the workers to get it done. The diversion, it looks like that's on a path. The Fargo-Moorhead, West Fargo, Horace Harwood diversion looks like that's on a path to get more complete and secure funding, but you're talking about thousands and thousands of workers that could be working on the diversion. So we could see we could go from a pandemic last year with record unemployment to now having a record shortage in the workforce very quickly. I mean, as quickly as this summer. So we will be back doing what we did the first 4 years, which is putting a lot of focus on how do we do everything we can to build the workforce we need in North Dakota.
But a big part of that is diversity. It really is. I'm involved in the building project right now. Went over there, checked it out, and these are not native North Dakotans, and these are not individuals that The first language they learned was not English. And I will tell you this, harder workers I've yet to find, and greater and nicer people, I've yet to find. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but they certainly fit in with the people in my life. And so is that a workforce that we as North Dakotans can draw on? Is that a workforce that instead of what's playing out in the public because I can point out 2-3 examples, and so can you, and they'd be different examples than I would give, of instances where people that are Hispanic have come to North Dakota and done one heck of a job for us. Is that a resource that we should be looking at instead of criticizing?
Well, I think it goes back to your overall statement. Whether it's any of us that are in families have been in North Dakota, we've all got relatives at one point where English wasn't their first language. And not that long ago, I mean, I was reminded that Fargo in the year 1900, 120 years ago, Fargo had about just over 20,000 people in 1900, and 80% of the population of Fargo, English was a second language. Mm-hmm. I mean, the reason why there's 4 Lutheran churches at downtown Fargo was because one was in German and one was in Norwegian and one was in Swedish. And when they made St. Mark's, on the actual papers, it actually says St. Mark's English Lutheran Church. It was the first one in the 1920s that was doing services in English. So we have to, understand, in terms of humanity, that we are more alike than we are different. We've got to figure out a way to assimilate, or otherwise we're going to be, we won't reach our full potential if we don't have the ability to include the diversity like we did 100 years ago or 120 years ago when all of our relatives were moving here. Well,
you're a student of history. My dad was one of 11. And in those days, after you graduated the 8th grade, after you passed the 8th grade, you headed out because there wasn't a room for an 11. And he went to work and lived with Grandma Ling. And she spoke German. She wouldn't let him speak anything but English. So he knew a lot of German. He just wouldn't use it because Grandma Lingen said he couldn't. And then he sent money back to the other 10 that were left back home. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Governor, you gave us a bunch of time. I'll give you the last word. Anything you want to share with the North Dakotans that are watching you right now?
No, I would just say, again, I want to thank all the North Dakotans. I mean, we've come through an incredible year together with whether we led the nation in testing, we led the nation in the use of monoclonal antibodies to save lives. We are now leading the nation in vaccinations, and it's just a credit to everybody for us to be able to save all those lives and keep our economy going and growing at the same time. I knew that we would come through this thing stronger than ever, but that's not about government. It's not about what government says. It's about what people do, and the people of North Dakota have stepped up over and over to be great neighbors and support their communities, their teams, their schools. They've stepped up, parents have stepped up, teachers have stepped up, healthcare stepped up. And I know people are again, there's fatigue because it's been a long year, but when we get a chance this spring, this summer, to get through this thing, there's going to be plenty to celebrate. And North Dakotans should feel great about and proud about the work they've done to put us in the position we're in right now, because we're in a great spot going forward.
Governor Burgum, thank you, sir. Thanks for giving us the time.
Well, thank you, Joel. Thanks for all you do. Appreciate it.
When we come back, Kirsten Baesler is going to join us. She's head of the North Dakota Department of Public Instruction, which means she's the superintendent. I've got to behave. Most superintendents took me to the woodshed. We'll talk to her right after this.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream sheets. When you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Introducing the Cool Turtle, the ultra-comfortable mask enhancer that creates a protective, cool, and breathable space between your mask and your face. Simply slide under any mask or gaiter and immediately feel the refreshing pocket of air surrounding your face. Cool Turtle's ergonomically designed, soft, comfortable shell immediately reduces mask friction, allowing you to breathe and talk in a comfortable environment.
I can actually breathe. With the Cool Turtle, no more sweating.
It's like I don't even have a mask on.
Call now and get not one, not two, but 3 Cool Turtles for just $10. Order now and we'll send you 2 more Cool Turtles free. No fees, absolutely free. Plus, you can get a 10-pack of 4-ply face masks. Just pay a separate fee. This offer is not available on Amazon. Get the real Cool Turtle now.
Call 1-800-270-1219. That's 1-800-270-1219. Or visit getcoolturtle.com. Order now.
Indoor football is back in Bismarck. Bucks football season is right around the corner. Grab a friend or family member for a night of action-packed, hard-hitting entertainment. The Bucks open at the Bismarck Event Center May 8th as they take on the Massachusetts Pirates. Catch the sweetest seats in the house right on the sidelines with VIP service at a Bucks turf table. Available now for single-game purchases. Secure your tickets today by calling 701-595-0771. Bucks football, half the field and double the fun.
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I want you, well, let's begin this way. Cliff Rao. Who's Cliff Rao? Well, Cliff Rao was the superintendent at Hankinson High School. And when you got in trouble, that was the last person in the world you ever wanted to see. He was a nice man, he was a fair man, he was a good man, but he could open up both barrels if you had it coming. And so superintendents have always scared me a little bit. But let's tie in with North Dakota's now. North Dakota's head of the Department of Public Instruction, Superintendent Kirsten Baesler. Superintendent Baesler, good to have you coming down the road with us.
Very good to be here, Joel. I hope that I have helped you overcome that a little bit and shown you a kinder, gentler side of what superintendency's work can be.
Yeah, it's the nice ones that scare me the most. It's the principal that looked at you and said, "How's it going, Joel?" That I'd look over my shoulder. Yeah, here's the bad part. If you don't got it coming, you don't get it, right?
That's true. That is very true. And you don't have to be nervous if you haven't done something that might get you into trouble.
Right, but life's pretty boring if you don't. So let me ask you about this. The Biden administration, through their stimulus plan that just passed, is going to send you a boatload of money, $305 million. I know it's over 300. What are you going to do with it?
So the Congress was pretty clear when they said my responsibility as the state superintendent is to deliver that out to our school districts on a formula basis. And that formula basis is giving the majority of the funding to our schools who have students that need it the most. And so 90% of that funding, it will be delivered out to our local school districts. And it is their responsibility, according to the verbiage of the act, that they use 20% of it at the minimum to help our students accelerate their learning recovery.
So, you know, when you look at some of what's going to happen, the one thing that this bill seems to have done, my opinion, obviously Joe Biden's a Democrat, I'm a Democrat, but the one thing that this bill has done is really focus on those areas where money-wise they need the money the most, where the income levels in that school district are nowhere near what other school districts are. And so if you could, Ms. Baesler, could you run some examples for people?
Absolutely. So, for instance, Fargo Public Schools, when you break down the amount of money that Fargo Public Schools will be getting for their students on a per pupil basis, about $4,000, almost $5,000 per pupil. You take a look at the community of Kindred, and you look at the amount of money that they'll be receiving and divide that by their per pupil, about $477 that Kindred will be receiving per pupil. We have other school districts that will be receiving over $15,000 per pupil from this funding. And the reason that there is such a discrepancy, Joel, is to address exactly what you just said. Some of our students need it more. I think we can all agree that every student in this state and in this nation experienced a disruption in their life. Even they may have been going to school every day and into a school building, but this pandemic has upended everyone's lives. And when you have that type of disruption, it impacts your learning. So every student is going to need some extra additional assistance. But we have to acknowledge that some of our students need more assistance, and those schools need more support to help those students, to make sure that those students are on track.
I'm not
the example that I would...
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead if you had another point to make.
Sure, and I think the point that kind of drives that home is in the Bismarck School District, I worked at 2 different elementary schools. One of the elementary schools that I worked in, the students that I taught, they went home to some extremely literacy-rich and well-resourced homes. There were books everywhere. There was electronics and connectivity. Another school district or school elementary building that I worked in, the students at the end of the day didn't go into those homes. There wasn't a lot of, they didn't have their own home library. There wasn't a lot of electronics or a lot of, support. We have to understand that the students going into those homes are going to need more materials, more resources, more support to make sure that they have what they need to make sure they stay on track.
Will they get it? Other than money, will they get it? And how do we follow up to make sure that the money that was sent there did what we wanted the money to do?
I really appreciate that question, Joel, because it is one that I'm asking my staff here at the department. It's questions that I'm asking our school leaders. The last thing that we want to happen at the end of this, the deadline to spend this funding is September of 2024. So we have 3 years to make a difference. It may sound like a long time, but it's not. And we have to be intentional about the work that we're doing. Will they get it? That's my job. That's our legislators' job to say, if we aren't doing what we need to do with this funding, then we have to quit saying that money is the solution to our problems, because we have a lot of funding now. And so we have to acknowledge that. There are things that we've put together. We've put together an accelerated learning plan, 19 different ideas that our local school districts can choose from. These are evidence-based ideas. High impact tutoring, where you put, reduced class sizes, where you put fewer students with great teachers. Sometimes extended learning is the opportunity. You may have heard, the big uproar when people were talking about extending the school year or requiring summer school. Well, that's not the way we do things in North Dakota. Nobody wants to tell their child that they have to. But there's a lot of great ideas out there where school districts are thinking about, instead of having students come to school, that we'll send our teachers to where students are this summer. Baseball diamonds, parks, local swimming pools. Have an area set up in it with an agreement with the park district to have the teachers that you know and love, and while you're waiting for mom and dad to come pick you up, you pop in and you practice some math or you do some reading with one of those teachers that you haven't seen since school let out.
I want to give you an example of some things, though, that kind of I use as examples with my buddies, which is, if I want to go buy a pair of jeans in a small town, it's going to cost me a little bit more than if I went to Fargo or Bismarck to get it. Fair?
Fair.
If I go and I buy a beer in a Fargo, it's going to cost me more there than what it's going to cost me in my small town. Fair?
That's fair.
Okay, and the reason I bring this up is because if you look at where teachers are needed the most, it's in these small towns. If you look at where the teachers are paid the most, it's in the bigger cities. And so how do we reverse that? How do we recognize the need, the proximity versus, what's the justification for not paying a teacher in Napoleon more than a teacher we do in Fargo?
Joel, we could have a whole separate conversation about that, but the need to pay our teachers well is the single biggest issue that we need to address, all teachers. I have, floated the idea of having a statewide teaching contract, because I believe it's just as important that our teachers that are in Bismarck and Fargo and Minot and Grand Forks are being paid as well as those in Napoleon and those in Wishick and or Bowman. I don't know that we're going to get there by having individual negotiated contracts. Some states have done it. We have a funding formula. When you were in the legislature, you'll remember this. We pay for our schools on a per pupil funding formula. Many states are going to a resource allocation model. South Dakota has a resource allocation model. And that's how they, essentially got a significant pay raise that their teachers deserved. We have to start talking about how much is it going to take to have an adequately resourced classroom in our schools, every one of our schools, and then pay accordingly. That's one idea that I hope to explore with our legislators.
I don't want to miss the opportunity to ask you a couple questions about a Salon article that was out there. And that Salon article talks about the role that you played in sending notice to the Biden administration that they're going to cost you and North Dakota students millions of dollars. And here was the argument. The argument was, by not allowing oil permits on federal land, you're going to cut down production, and therefore we're not going to get the tax revenue from that oil. I would point out that it doesn't stop the rigs that are already on federal land that are going, and that we have a ton of permits on federal land that simply haven't been developed, that those permits would still be allowed to develop. And so my question of you is there really that problem? And is it really going to cost us that amount of money?
I would agree that it is. I would say that it is. I would argue that it would. And if we are talking about $1 or $1 billion, my job is to fiercely advocate for a sector of our economy that not only provides tax revenue, but also provides a stable economy, good jobs, and a future for our children. And with that, there was some implication in that article, Joel, that made the claim that we, in fact, did not write that letter, that it was written for us and we simply signed it. I'm actually a little bit offended by that, to think that, of the 5 states, 4 of those commissioners or superintendents of education are women, and to imply that, Jillian Balow, the superintendent of Wyoming that led this charge, didn't have the ability to do our own research, and for me to reach out to the people in North Dakota to get resources, and then we just simply signed something that was penned by the oil and gas. That's a little bit on the edge of offensive to me as we talk about that. But with that, I would also say that I think we need to have a conversation rather than take some action. And I think that was the point of my signing on. Let's have a conversation, because we were trying to be as respectful as we could as possible and say, before actions like this are taken, can we have a conversation about how it's impacting education? A real conversation.
I have to ask you this then before I let you go. If that be the case, if it's your job, your goal, and you dealt yourself a hand in these federal permits, and we'll get away from the collusion, we'll get away from the letters from Ron Ness congratulating you for doing this, North Dakota Petroleum Council. But if you see your goal is to not lose revenue for education funding, did you step in when the North Dakota legislature cut down funding through reducing the oil extraction tax, when the people of North Dakota had voted in by initiated measure that level of extraction tax? Did you deal yourself a hand in that?
I did not lean in as hard as I wish that I would have. And as we're talking about some bills that are moving through the legislature right now about the back collections, I'm leaning in quite heavily, because that is my responsibility, clearly, is to ensure that not just for today, but for future generations, that we have a very responsible policy. That is my primary reason of my job, is making sure that I'm advocating for those young people that not only can't hire lobbyists, they can't vote. And so, yes, that's an important priority. And can I and should I lean in? Yes, and I will.
Superintendent Baesler, thank you. I appreciate you coming on down the road with us.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll give you some comments. We'll give you a newsmaker segment. We'll talk about all of that right here as we go down the road.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, and as you know, my passion is to help each and every one of you get the best sleep of your life. That's why I created my new Giza Dreams bed sheets. I started by using the world's best cotton called Giza. It's only grown in a region between the Sahara Desert, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Nile River. It's ultra soft and breathable, but extremely durable. My Giza sheets also include full 21-inch wide pillowcases that will fit over any pillow and deep pocket sheets that will fit over any mattress. The first night you sleep on my sheets, you'll never want to sleep on anything else.
Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen right now to get your very own MyPillow Giza Dream Sheets. Giza Dream Sheets are available in a variety of colors. Use your promo code, and for a limited time, when you buy one set of sheets, you'll get another set absolutely free.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Non-attorney spokesperson. This is a paid advertisement for legal services sponsored by Nightline Legal. Cases assigned on a random basis to participating law firms. This drug remains approved by the FDA. If you or a loved one regularly took Zantac and were later diagnosed with cancer, call right now. You may be entitled to financial compensation. Potential cancers include bladder cancer, colon cancer, kidney cancer, stomach cancer, liver cancer, pancreatic cancer. Do not stop taking a prescribed medication without first consulting with your doctor. Discontinuing a prescribed medication without your doctor's advice can result in injury or death.
Call 1-800-230-9210.
Seniors, are you aware that you could pay less for your car insurance?
Seniors can save money on their car insurance.
You might save a little, you might save a lot.
Maybe hundreds of dollars a year.
You might save 5% a year, maybe 10%, 15%, or even more.
That's a lot of money.
So call right now and find out just how much money you might be able to save.
1-800-699-0761. 1-800-699-0761.
Hi, it's me, Anthony Sullivan. And yes, you've actually caught me at home relaxing because life's been pretty worry-free since I got coverage with American Residential Warranty.
You won't believe what ARW covers. Heating and air conditioning, washers and dryers, kitchen appliances, plumbing, water heaters, electrical systems, flat screens and laptops, even pools and spas, and so much more.
Call American Residential Warranty. They'll get you covered.
1-800-219-1467.
Beck Communications is hiring. Beck Communications is seeking qualified candidates for plant technicians in our Wheatland, North Dakota location. Beck Communications is an equal opportunity employer. To view the job details, visit www.beck.coop. To apply, email your cover letter and resume to careers@bechtel.coop. Beck Communications, making connections that matter.
You know, we talked about this before as we went down the road together. We talked about hypocrisy. We talked about that great big scissors. We've all seen it used, right? You put the ribbon out and you put as many people as you can in front of it, sometimes a hard hat, sometimes not, sometimes a suit and tie. And then you cut that ribbon and everybody high fives and says, look what we've done. Well, I want to talk about hypocrisy. I want to talk about those individuals that want to cut that ribbon. I want to talk about John Hoven, Kevin Kramer, Kelly Armstrong, who will be more than anxious to cut that ribbon and say, look what I've done, when in fact they voted against the bill. When in fact they voted against that stimulus bill. Because to me, that means they're hypocrites. That does. Now they can say, well, I like this and I didn't like that. In the end, I had to vote against it. That's any legislation, ladies and gentlemen. You can't let the good be the enemy of the perfect, right? Good is what you're looking for. And that bill was good. You just heard it, $300 and some million going to education. Now, you might be ticked off if you listen to Superintendent Baesler that Kindred's only getting the money they're getting versus other schools. Well, you know what? Kindred's doing okay. They're making money. Kindred has rich people in their district. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and have a lot of sympathy for a school district like Kindred when they're not going through and dealing with some of the tougher issues. We don't fund education that way. We fund it on a per pupil basis, and whatever they can afford property tax wise, they get the benefit from. If you go to Kindred and you see their school district and basically their facilities, don't feel sorry. You won't. Many of you people in some of those rural schools will go, wow, why can't we have that? So, you know, I want to point out, and I'm going to get in some trouble here, and I don't care, because everybody has different capacities, right? I'm a radio talk show host, referee, politician, all those things in my past, right? But today, I'm a TV host. And there's an individual that I work with on this great network, and that's Beck News. And that individual has a show on every day, just like I do. And his name is Rick Becker. Now, he does a show called No Apologies. I've watched it. I like it. I think it's a good show. And it's worth my time to watch. I hope he feels that same way about mine, but I'll guarantee you he'll hear about what I'm about to say, which is Rick Becker and his independent business. He got $40,000+ as part of the PPP. That's going to end up being a grant. That's $40,000+ that you as taxpayers gave to Rick Becker. He's one of the most conservative members of the North Dakota legislature. He's one of the ones that beats that drum and says, you know what? Government needs to stay out of our lives. Well, he's going to say the government shut me down. Did they shut him down? Did they shut him down? Or did he do just fine throughout the process? I would argue this. You can't complain about government one day and then take any benefit you can from it another. And I won't even bring up the fact that the cops had to come and say, shut your doors because you're running it later than what you were supposed to. I'll let Rick answer that and address that. Next time we get in a fight, he can come on this show versus me coming on his. When we come back, some closing comments for you as we finish our trip down the road.
Do you worry about going to the dentist? After all, a visit to the dentist can easily cost $2,000 or more. Well, relax. The Carefree Dental Card is now available in your area. Call now and we'll send your actual card at no cost today. With the Carefree Dental Card, you go to the dentist whenever you need and you instantly pay a lot less. Activate your card and you can start using it immediately. From exams and cleanings to more expensive procedures like crowns, dentures, even braces, they're all included with the Carefree Dental Card. Say you go to the dentist today without any card and your bill is, well, ouch. Wait a minute, let's try that again. You go to the dentist today and show your Carefree Dental Card, you save $525. The Carefree Dental Card is just $15.95 a month, so call now and make going to the dentist carefree.
Call 1-800-416-5739 to receive your Carefree Dental Card information kit. 1-800-416-5739. Call now.
Beck Communications is now hiring independent sales agents around the state. We're looking for highly motivated individuals to take advantage of this opportunity, selling advertising for our news and sports programming on Beck TV and sponsorships for the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team. Independent sales agents will make 50% commission on their completed sales for all products. Beck TV is the leader in broadcasting local sports, owner of the Bismarck Bucks indoor football team, and originator of newly launched news opinion programming. Submit your application now at careers@bechtel.coop. This is an exciting opportunity you can't pass up. 50% commission for independent sales agents now hiring at Beck Communications.
I can't say enough good things about these nano hearing aids.
Real people talking about nano hearing aids.
The hearing quality is great.
Until now, hearing aids used to be too expensive for the average person. Until nano. Call now and you'll get your nano hearing aids for only $297. You'll save $100. When you buy one hearing aid, Nano will give you a second hearing aid free. Call right now.
1-800-213-3815.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Attention! Have you or a loved one suffered from maculopathy, a serious retinal injury, after taking the prescription drug Almiron for interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome? In 2018, a researcher at the Emory School of Medicine linked Elmiron, a prescription drug that treats interstitial cystitis or bladder pain syndrome, to maculopathy, which is sight-threatening and can cause an abrupt change of vision. Call Elmiron Justice for a free legal consultation.
Please call 800-395-5680.
You know, hopefully by now you've taken a look or have seen clips or, you know, maybe even heard on the radio some of the things from President Biden's press conference. I get hit many times by people that don't have the same political philosophy as I have about how the president is too afraid to have a press conference. Well, he had one, right? He had one, and he had to answer some tough questions. And some of those questions were in relation to the situation at the border. They were. And they should be. You know what? Answering tough questions about a policy that you have is not a bad thing. That's what makes our world go round. But here's the thing. You know, when you look at what's happening on the border, I don't know that I'd classify it as a crisis. I don't know that I'd classify it as just seasonal, but it certainly is seasonal. I think it goes beyond what we normally see on the season. But if you look at what the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times and the Washington Post have pointed out, by fact, it's not that much different than what has happened before. When I spoke to Governor Burgum earlier in this show, what I was trying to get at, and I think he understood, and he was trying to get at, is this world needs workers. This United States of America needs workers. I shouldn't say world, but I mean us. We need workers. I remember when I went to a big dairy, I'm not going to tell you what dairy, but every one of the workers I saw there were Hispanic, and they were workers. They were out there getting the job done. When they left there, they were living in a dorm. When I spoke to some of them, they were here, they were working, and they were sending money back home to their families. They were workers. They were workers. And so I hope that the policy is discussed. I hope it goes beyond what you heard today. That being said, I also think Joe Biden needs to let people see the whole picture and not just what he wants them to see with clean bunk beds and everything else that goes with it. Let me add one more thing real quick, which is if you want to look at what really has happened during the Biden administration, you got to look at the stimulus bill. And you got to look at the money that's gone out there in North Dakota because it came like a rainfall. It did. We hear it in education. We hear it in local businesses. And you know what? Some of those businesses I talked about today. It's been good riding with you, folks. We'll see you next time as we go down the trail.